Maximize your profitability and streamline your operations with Optimal Blue's hedging and trading solutions. With Optimal Blue, you can automate processes, reduce manual errors, and cut administrative costs. Experience faster transactions and improved operational efficiency with tools like the Compass Edge Rate Sheet tool and Profitability Assistant. Stay ahead with real-time risk management and make informed decisions quickly. Our robust data connections ensure seamless synchronization, enhancing data integrity and operational efficiency. Unlock deeper insights with our advanced analytics and modeling tools, and benefit from the expertise of seasoned industry professionals. Optimize your competitive advantage and maximize profitability on every loan. Ready to transform your secondary marketing operations? Visit optimalblue.com to learn more.
Welcome to Market Advantage, the monthly podcast from Optimal Blue. Tune in for valuable insights from the Market Advantage Mortgage Data Report and in-depth conversations with industry experts. Stay competitive and optimize your advantage in the ever-evolving mortgage landscape.
Hey listeners, Olivia Delancey here from Optimal Blue's Market Advantage podcast. We want to share a special bonus episode with you today that's a little bit outside of our usual focus on data and guest interviews. If you don't know, we held our inaugural user conference, the Optimal Blue Summit, in San Diego at the beginning of February 2025. Our CEO, Joe Tyrrell, gave a really great keynote speech there, and we wanted to share it with you because it provides a really great overview of who Optimal Blue is and why what we do matters to the U.S. mortgage industry. So without further ado, I hope you enjoy.
Please welcome Optimal Blue Chief Executive Officer, Joe Tyrrell.
Thank you so much for being here, and welcome to the first annual Optimal Blue Summit. We're thrilled that you're starting your year off with us, and hopefully you've had a good start to 2025. If you're like me, New Year's Eve seems like it was just yesterday, and I tend to spend that night reflecting back a little bit on kind of the year that was. And this New Year's Eve, I actually found myself going a little farther back than I normally do. I was thinking about where I was and how I was spending December 31st, 1999. Now, for some of you, that date will have some meaning. I can see a couple people laughing. For others, you might wonder, well, what was the significance of that day? Well, on December 31st, 1999, I spent the night not celebrating the coming new year, but looking at this big, chunky black pager, waiting for this emergency 911 to come through, because that was the day before Y2K. Now, my company that I worked for at the time had spent 6 months preparing for Y2K. We weren't really sure what was going to happen with our systems, were things going to work properly, and so we were all prepared to get the page, jump on a war room call, and then start troubleshooting. Now, of course, we know Y2K was one of the biggest non-events in the history of the world. So that got me thinking about another day, also in December. This was December 21st, 2012. Now, that might not be as familiar to some of you, but it should be, because this was the day that the world was supposed to end. If you remember the news stories about the Mayan long count calendar coming to an end and nobody knew what was going to happen and there was no days after that. And I remember leading up to that, seeing people in the news and these stories about everybody stashing a bunch of water bottles and supplies. I remember even going into my local grocery store and seeing that a lot of shelves were actually empty. Now, what's interesting about these two non-events, because of course we're still here, is that it did teach me something really important, which is the importance of preparation and being prepared. Now, in our industry, we've actually experienced real events that have had real consequences on our businesses. And we really didn't have any time to prepare for some of those events. If you think back to March 2007, it was the beginning of the end for a lot of mortgage lenders in our business. because in that month, it was when New Century stopped taking applications and started shutting its doors. It was at that time that we ushered in the mortgage crisis. And if you think about just lucky number 13 years later, also in March, but this time March of 2020, we dealt with something that we've really never had to handle as a country, as a nation, or as a world, which was this pandemic. But it had a multiplying, a compounding effect on the folks in this room. Because not only were we dealing with the pandemic and kind of the uncertainties from a health perspective, but just several months later, we would be dealing with unprecedented volume in our industry. Remember those times when they were asking you, do you know anybody who wants to come and work here? Because we just need as many people as we can to handle as many loans as we can get through. And then a year and a half later, we experienced this pretty significant overcorrection of going from these historic low rates that we had that were generating all of this refinance volume to these rates just significantly increasing in a very short period of time. And we found ourselves with volume that had basically disappeared. And as a result, those same lenders that were doing anything that they could to hire anyone that they could were now in a position where they were doing some pretty significant layoffs. But in reality, if we're honest with ourselves, we probably could have been a little bit better prepared for those last two events. You have to believe that somebody back in 2007, when all of these really imaginative loan programs were being offered, had to think to themselves, should we really be doing interest-only loans off of stated income and stated assets? And if you just go back a few years to the height of the pandemic, when we were doing all of these 3%, 2.8% loans, somebody had to have been thinking, at some point these interest rates are going to go up and this volume is going to go away. So why are we able to be better prepared for some things than others? Well, with Y2K and with 2012, those were dates on a calendar. You could see them coming. You could start to think about what you needed to do to prepare. But the reality is that the real events, the ones that really impact us, whether that's personally or professionally, they don't telegraph themselves. They usually don't show up on a calendar. They just appear. Kind of like what's happening right now with technology, where it's just coming onto the scene. If you think about just last month, there was this major joint venture announced between OpenAI, SoftBank, and NVIDIA. They announced a $500 billion joint venture to focus on developing and driving the adoption of AI. And it was met with all of this fanfare. There was news reports about it, and people were really excited about it. For about a week. You see, what happened 1 week later after that announcement was DeepSeek's new AI model was being introduced that could learn from an algorithm perspective, be trained, and provide better, faster results at a fraction of the cost of any of the commercial LLMs that are available today. And it just happened in a week. This is why we're here at the summit. This is why we're putting on this conference. Is because we want to help you to be better prepared for just ever-changing future. Because you never know when it's going to hit you. But as it relates to technology and innovation, tomorrow's already here. Innovation is happening all around us, literally as we sit here in this conference. Now, some of you may know me from my time at Ellie Mae, or from running ICE Mortgage Technology. But before joining Optimal Blue, I actually spent the last year and a half deploying generative AI to some of the biggest brands in the world. I was driving a company that delivered customer experience technology to companies like Meta, Apple, Walmart, Target, and Mercedes-Benz, just to name a few. Now, when I was focused on deploying this AI, I was doing it not to replace people. The goal was to deploy AI in a way that would assist people in doing their jobs. So I've definitely spent a good chunk of my career in tech, but I actually grew up in mortgages. I started as an originator, taking 1003s by hand, sitting across the kitchen table from prospective borrowers. I then, believe it or not, made a jump from that to becoming an underwriter, where every hour, on the hour, I got these 2 to 3 inch thick stack files just dropped on my desk. And then one of my last jobs for a lender was as a chief credit and risk officer, where I would spend my days and nights trying to make sure that we put the company in the best possible position to succeed. And what I love about Optimal Blue is that's the lens that we look through when we're looking to deploy technology. The reason why that's so important is in this industry, if you get it wrong, the mistakes are big. It's not only impacting people's ability to realize their dream, but those mistakes stay with you for the life of the loan. So now I get to fast forward, and here I am at Optimal Blue, a company that I've known and partnered with for 15 years. And I've always known that this company is the most accurate and most reliable system in the entire industry. I always knew, in fact, back in my Ellie Mae and Ice days, if there was an issue that a lender had and I can't get it right between Encompass and Optimal Blue, I always knew it was Encompass's fault. Because Optimal Blue just doesn't get it wrong. And so I'm excited now to be here because what we get to do is we get to complement this unrivaled accuracy with 5 new core competencies. And that's what I'm excited to share with you today. But before I do that, I get asked sometimes, well, there's so many things that you can do. How do you set the priorities of what you're going to work on? Like, how do you say what's the most important thing that you're going to do first? And so I want to share with you the process that I use to determine how do we stack rank what we should work on. And it's this philosophy that I've learned over the years that I call Graceisms. So this is Grace. Grace is my 19-year-old daughter. She's the youngest of my 4 daughters that I have. And for all of the parents out in the audience, you know that each of your kids is a little bit different, right? Well, Grace is that one kid who always tends to see things that other people don't see. She and her sisters can look at the exact same thing, and her takeaway will be completely different than her other 3 sisters. And so over the years, she's really kind of opened my eyes to her unique perspective on how she sees the world. And I'll give you just a quick example. Her and I were out shopping. She was 10 years old at the time, and we're out shopping at a Barnes & Noble. Now, we were in the kind of game section, and some of you might not even know that there's games at Barnes & Noble, but there is, and she found them. And so I was watching her as she walked over to where there was a bunch of board games. And she went in and she grabbed one of the board games out, and I could see her studying it. And so I kind of looked to see what she was looking at. And the game that she was holding was the Ouija board game. And I could see that she was trying to understand what the purpose of this game was and what it did. She flipped it over, she looked at the back. Then I saw her studying some directions on the side. And so finally she says, "Hey, Dad, I got a quick question for you." And so I'm bracing myself. And she said, "Why is it that I have to be 16 years old to drive a car? But according to this box, I only need to be 8 years or older to summon dead people?" It's a great question. As she was finishing her senior year in high school, she came home one day, and I could tell she had this very frustrated look on her face. Of course, I'm trying to be a good dad, and so I say, "Well, tell me what's going on." And she says, "So let me get this straight. High school is supposed to prepare me for college, and college is supposed to prepare me for life. And over the next several years, I'm going to be forced to take advanced calculus and inorganic chemistry. But when do I learn how to file my taxes or how to buy a home?" So you can imagine that last one hit me hard. because I've been in this industry for most of my career, and I'm sitting there going, oh my gosh, did I not ever tell her how you get a home? But the way that she looks at things helps me to understand how to prioritize. And that is, we start with what's the most obvious thing that needs to get done. The good news is that for Optimal Blue, we said before we're going to do anything, let's make sure what's most obvious to our customers and to our partners is what our purpose is. So as a company, when you're defining your purpose, it's like, why are we in business? What impact are we trying to have on this industry? What problems are we trying to solve? And the good news is, and hopefully you've seen this come through loud and clear in the recent months, is we know our purpose. Our purpose is to increase your profitability, period. So everything that we do, every initiative that we prioritize, every investment that we make as a company, every time we decide we're going to focus on something, it has to tie back directly to your profitability. If it doesn't get prioritized. And the reason why that's so important is as we can help increase your profitability, we know it makes it that much easier for you to help people realize the dream of homeownership, which someday, hopefully very soon, will include my 19-year-old daughter. Now to do that, to focus on your profitability and to make a meaningful impact on it, that's where these 5 new core competencies come into play. The first one is flexibility. You know, as human beings, one of the hardest words for us to receive emotionally is the word no. It causes us to doubt ourselves, causes frustration, and typically for the person being told no, it's going to require them to probably have to do a little extra work. So I'm happy to tell you that if there is something that you need in your business that our system has to do, we will no longer be telling you no. Instead, we will replace that word with when. Now, in order for us to help you understand when we'll be able to get to this thing that you feel really will have a meaningful impact on your business, that goes to our second core competency, which is all around transparency. You see, we can't tell you when we're going to do the thing that you need us to do if we're not also sharing with you all of the other things that we've already got planned. At this conference and going forward, you're going to be exposed to the roadmap for every product that we offer. You're going to see what's coming for the next 4 quarters. And we're not just going to tell you what we're doing, we're going to tell you why we're doing it. Because when you know that, then if there's something for your company that you feel is really important, you can better understand, well, is it more important than this new initiative, this new innovation, this new capability that might be able to also help move your company forward? And chances are, if there's something you've thought of that could really be impactful, it's likely already on the roadmap. We just need to make sure that we're sharing it with you. You see, there's really big things we're going to be doing from this point forward. Really important things. And so that means we have to be very open with you about where we're innovating. And that's the third core competency. We are accelerating our focus on innovation like never before. Now the good news is that Optimal Blue has always been innovative. You don't get to be the most accurate, reliable, and scalable platform in the industry without having already made significant investments. And let me make sure that I'm crystal clear with everyone here today. If you have anyone out there that refers to OB, Optimal Blue, as legacy technology, they're misleading you. They're in fact lying to you. Before I joined this company, I asked for a review of the technical stack. And what I found is one of the most modern technology bases that exists in this industry. We are cloud native. We are AI enabled. And we have taken an API-first approach that our competitors just don't have. So I'm excited about the innovation that we have, but I also want to remind folks that when we deliver innovation and automation it also has to have a purpose. You don't just do it because you think it's cool. You do it because it has to solve a real problem that your customers are experiencing. You see, the only thing that's worse than a bad process is an automated bad process. And so at Optimal Blue, we take that to heart. Not only are we ensuring that our AI doesn't introduce unintended bias, but as you'll see in just a few minutes when our product leaders come out to unveil a lot of the new releases, our AI is actually eliminating bias. I'll give you just a quick example. You're going to hear about Originator Assistant. Now, I was an originator, and I can tell you when one human sits across the table from another human, there are natural biases that come out. You all know that you've probably got a loan officer that sits across the table and looks at a pair of borrowers and automatically thinks, they're a conventional borrower, or they're an FHA borrower. Those are the natural biases that Originator Assistant will eliminate. Because using this generative AI, not only will it look to see every product that that borrower could be qualified for, it'll also look at every one that they just missed out on. And it'll come back and it'll tell that originator they could qualify for this loan if they could close this one credit card on their credit report. They could qualify for this loan if they just put down $1,700 more on this purchase. So that's how we're focused on delivering AI, doing it in a world where we know we're presented with so much data all the time. And it's not just professionally. Just think about personally. How many posts, texts, connections that you're getting on a daily basis. The thing that we have to help folks do, though, is that with all of that data that's coming at you, a lot of it is interesting. But only a very small amount of it is actually important. And I mean important in how you're living your lives, or important in how you're doing your job. Now, historically, getting to that data has required you to pore over all of these reports to try to find how you can connect these disparate data points so that it connects in a way where it makes sense to you. So our innovation is going to focus on the most important aspects of your job, like getting answers quickly, and getting rid of all of these reports that you've typically had to deal with in your jobs. Now, to access data and to get you answers quickly, I'm also excited that you're going to be exposed to an announcement today about Ask OB. So Ask OB is the first conversational AI solution that is built specifically for secondary market. With Ask OB, you'll be able to ask any question related to your business. So you can ask, what was my lock pipeline yesterday? How did that compare with 2 days ago? How did that compare to the same day last month? What was my loss or my gain yesterday? How does that compare with what it was last month? It's a generative AI solution built on your data to give you specific answers and access to the data that's most important to your business. But I'm also happy to share that this is just the beginning of all the innovation that's coming your way. Now, I know what you're thinking. Okay, this looks cool. How much is this going to cost? That's our fourth new core competency, where we're going to be focused on delivering you more value without more cost. This is what you should expect from a critical partner in your business. Not us keep rolling out this feature and that feature and charging for this or charging for that. But if we're really focused on your profitability, then that means we need to be delivering value to continually without expecting that we're going to charge for every single thing coming your way. Now, innovation for us is not just focused on cool new things that you're going to see here and tomorrow. It's also focusing on existing capabilities, but just doing them better. And that's going to be the fifth competency you'll experience from us at Optimal Blue, which is we're going to be putting more control in your hands, more configuration capabilities, so that if you have somebody in your capital markets desk who's come up with an idea of pricing that they need to change at midnight, and they want to make sure it's in effect before people hit the desk in the morning, They need to have the control to do that. Make the changes that you want anytime so that it will have the impact and immediately put you in a position for what's coming next, not responding to what's already happened. But the best news of all is that everything I've just shared with you is already underway. We have teams at Optimal Blue that have been working tirelessly to introduce a lot of this new innovation to you today and tomorrow while you're at this conference. In a few minutes, you're going to get the opportunity to experience how this acceleration of innovation is actually going to show up and come to life in the form of our new AI assistants. This is cutting-edge innovation, incredible value being delivered to you at absolutely no incremental cost. In our sessions today and tomorrow, we're going to share with you all of our plans. We're going to be exposing all of our roadmaps to you in operating in a completely transparent way, including our plans to put more control into your hands, more configuration capabilities, more ability for you to run your business the way that you want, when you want it. Now, while our focus on being the most accurate provider is always going to stay, that's never going to change. For everything else, I'm expecting you're going to experience a completely new Blue. And I'm so excited that you've made the decision to spend some time with us here so that you get to witness it. Thank you so much for coming to this summit, and I'm excited for everything that you're about to see. Enjoy the conference. Thank you.